Good morning and welcome to First Wave Cloud Technologies FY22 Q3 Shareholder Update. I'm John Grant, First Wave's Non-Executive Chair, and I'm joined by Danny Ma, our MD and CEO, and Ian Bartram, our CFO and Company Secretary. We're going to run to the agenda you can see on the slide. I'll give you my headline view of the past quarter first. Danny will then elaborate to give you a sense of the transformation that's underway inside the business as we bring together First Wave and Opmentech and what it means for you. And Ian will give you more detail on financial performance in the quarter. We're also going to give you a sneak peek of what Cybercision Mobile is going to deliver our partners and our end user customers. Then we'll wrap up before we take your questions. Just moving on to highlights, my view of the highlights for the quarter. Look, it goes without saying, but it does bear repeating that our core objective is to provide shareholders with a return on their investment in the company. That's what we attempt to do every day. As we bring First Wave and Opmentech together, there are three things we are doing to achieve this. Firstly, we're transitioning to a sales-led culture. This doesn't imply any backward steps in our development effort and the intellectual property that results from it. Both remain absolutely core to the business and to our future. But it does mean our development roadmap reflecting our customers' priorities rather than perceived market needs. Substance over form, if you like. It also means a change in the state of mind of everyone in the business from tech first to sales first, through visibility, accountability, and celebrating success. Secondly, we've made key decisions as we've been integrating the two businesses to position the company to grow revenue faster. On the product side, we're narrowing our focus and leading with our most commercially attractive products. And after internal release of Cybercision Phase 2 in the quarter, we're targeting external launch for mid-May. As I said, we'll give you a sneak peek of Cybercision Mobile so you can see what a difference it will make. On the go-to-market side, we've restructured the sales and marketing functions with former Opmentech CEO Craig Nelson running sales globally from the US as Chief Revenue Officer. With Danny, Craig has shifted sales team focus and headcount towards the regions that offer greatest opportunity. This has meant several of our team have left or will be leaving the business. Danny will elaborate further, but my thanks to each of those leaving for the contribution they've made in their time at the company, and I wish them the very next stage of their careers. And thirdly, take cost out of the merged business, and the gains have been larger than just thought. So Danny and Ian will elaborate on all of this. Let me hand you over to Danny. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So I'll run through for everyone an update on the business in line with our strategic priorities. So to recap, those three strategic priorities are to transition to a sales-led culture, to grow the business faster, and to spend less, which means less cash burn. Firstly, on the transition to a sales-led culture, okay, it's about shifting our investment towards sales and marketing and pivoting the business towards being focused on sales and marketing. It's about ensuring the Chief Revenue Officer and Chief Marketing Officer are highly visible to the whole organization. Uniting the company around highly visible sales strategies and goals, increasing accountability for all the sales team members in line with those goals. Building and maintaining multi-level relationships with key accounts, i.e. more than just the sales team. So we want everybody in the company focused at growing the company and involved in growing the company. We've announced recently some nice wins, and it's about celebrating and promoting those wins internally and externally. So we hope that everyone inside the company and outside the company hears more about the great wins that we have. And it's about optimizing processes to enable sales efficiency. So when we're creating new processes and doing new things, at the front of our mind is, how is this going to help us grow the company? This chart here illustrates some of this shift of focus. So prior to the acquisition of Opmentech, i.e. at the end of December, we had 69 full-time equivalent employees, and the mix of where those employees worked in terms of their function is in the bar chart on the left. By June, well, after some people which unfortunately have had to exit the business under the restructuring, we'll have 81 full-time employees And you can see the mix of where those employees are working is quite different. So we have a reduction in percentage terms of the number of people that are working in corporate, and a reduction in the number of development, and a much higher focus on sales. This next slide shows us the total increase in sales and marketing resources by location. And you'll notice that we increased from 69 to 81 in total, so 12 employees, and 11 of those that have increased are in sales and marketing. So we've acquired a new company, added additional GP, added additional resources, but almost every single resource after the restructuring, almost every single additional resource is in sales and marketing. So before the acquisition, you can see that these sales and marketing resources were focused in different geographies. Right now, as a company, we have a much larger focus on North America, and we've got a deep prioritization on other markets. So it's Australia, North America, and Latin America, together with a small amount of UK and Europe, which have become our focus. We're better positioned to grow revenue faster. So the growth in this quarter, our annual recurring revenues grew 2.4% over the previous quarter, and they currently sit at 10.9 million. Ian will run through the financials in more detail, and there's some one-off revenues. There's some interesting things for Ian to go through. There was a significant contract that we announced with Microsoft. This was a new area of Microsoft that we're now dealing with. Microsoft was an existing account that Opmantec has. We foresee and hope for a lot more growth with Microsoft. There's a significant contract with a large Australian client, which is in the final stage of negotiation. I was hoping to be able to announce that around this time, but that will hopefully be coming soon. We're leading with our most commercially attractive products. So that for us means prioritizing Frictionless email, which is being launched along with Cybersession Phase 2, and the network management software, which came as part of the acquisition of Opmantec. We're focusing on these products because these are the products that we have the most intellectual property in. That also translates to these are the products that generate the most gross profit for the company, and are also the most differentiated. We're targeting the markets where we have strengths. Again, through the acquisition of Opmantec, that means the US is absolutely a market where we have strength and we have high growth potential, and that's where our sales leadership is. Latin America, we have some major service providers. It's important that we keep some focus on those accounts and renew those accounts and grow those accounts. And in Australia, we have a key account in Telstra, where we're now able to put some strategic focus on them and work together with Telstra to help grow those revenues. We're launching new products. So the phase 2 launch of Cybersession is coming this month. So that's the public launch. We've already done the internal launch. And it is coming mid-May, and it will include Frictionless email and mobile. Now, I'll touch on mobile a little bit later, but I just want to mention Frictionless a little bit because it's something I'm quite excited about. Frictionless email is giving the ability for Microsoft Office 365 users, so those users that use email with a Microsoft subscription, to simply log into their Microsoft account and add our email security protection to it. That's really, really cool for us. It opens up a whole bunch of new channels to markets, but critically, once you're renewing your Microsoft Office's licenses, you're in a purchasing moment and a purchasing process. So the ability for us to have them, while they're purchasing, just add our email security as an option is a much cleaner and simpler way for them to purchase that product. And of course, it leverages off all the IP we have in email security already. We're spending less. So this is about capital efficiency and lowering our cash burn. A big part of integrating the companies together, and what we've been doing this quarter, has had this focus. The cost reductions that we're getting are exceeding expectations. Our cash expenses are down by 5.5 million per annum since July 2021, which is extremely significant. And there's further savings in excess of 500,000 per annum, which have now been actioned. So we're going to, Ian will talk more about those in details. The full savings will translate to lower cash burn by June 30, which we're targeting at around 500K per month in July, so entering financial year 23. So that's 500K per month that we want to be investing in the business come July. We'll receive further cost savings by consolidating the cyber decision platforms and continuing to renegotiate some third-party agreements. And of course, as our revenues grow, our cash burn will also decrease. So all those three strategies go together. A lot of people are interested in how the integration of Opmantic into the First Wave business is going. I think this is a nice, neat way for us to summarize it, which is an overview of our internal project plan. So we created this plan in January. It had 157 tasks. Now, some of these tasks are quite large. So, for example, one task is to develop a strategic plan for the combined business. There's a lot of detail, a lot of people that have to get involved in doing that, but we just note that as one task. And other tasks are quite simple. We've completed 107 of these tasks already, and they've been completed on time. There's 49 of these tasks on track for delivery as planned. And there's only one of these 150 tasks which has been deferred by 1 month. And in fact, it's only a subtask within that task, with no deviation from the plan we developed in January. For those that were listening to John when he was outlining the acquisition, he spoke about it as really something he felt as a hand in glove with the two companies fitting together. As managing director and sitting over this integration, I'm really happy with how it's playing out. It's a big task for us to undertake together with a restructure in the first quarter, but to come up with a plan in January, which almost every single part of it is on track or in front. I'm really happy. I mean, it's not like we could hope for anything more. So I'm very pleased with how that integration is going. I'll hand over to Ian now to go into some more details on our financial performance, and hopefully that'll help provide you with more clarity on the things I've outlined.
Thanks, Danny. As Danny has already mentioned, annualized recurring revenue grew during the quarter by 250,000 to 10.9 million, which was 2.4% ahead of the Q2 pro forma result of 10.65 million. However, looking at in-period revenues, we see a much larger growth than we did with ARR. The Q3 pro forma revenue of 3.1 million is 330,000 or 11.8% up on the Q2 result of 2.77 million. The main reason for this increase is two significant one-off events that push the in-period revenue above the underlying recurring level. The first of these items relates to the Cisco reseller relationship drawing to a close, and a contract that had a 36-month term that was being recognised as deferred revenue over the length of the contract, now being brought to account as First Wave has no continuing obligations under this agreement, and hence can and should recognise the remaining revenue immediately. This resulted in 162,000 in one-off revenue being recognised in March. This revenue was previously being recognised at the rate of $10,000 per month, and hence ARR has been reduced by 120,000 as a result of bringing this revenue to account in Q3. The other significant item involved the release of a $235,000 provision against revenue, where First Wave was uncertain around a particular clause in a client contract. That has now been positively resolved, and we are confident in being able to recognise that revenue. This outcome results not only in a one-off revenue bump, but also recurring revenue lifting by $10,000 per month. And from a recurring revenue perspective, these two adjustments net out against each other. However, when looking at in-period revenues, they are both increases, resulting in additional revenue of just under 400,000 being recognised in March. Neither of these revenues had any COGS associated with them, and hence their recognition flows through to gross profit at 100% margin. This results in the increase having a larger percentage impact on gross profit than it did on revenue, and is the main driver in gross profit increasing by 17.7% quarter on quarter, and the gross profit margin increasing by 3.6 percentage points to 71.3. In summary, all four metrics on this slide are positive in an environment where we've been focused on cost cutting and the restructuring activities required to set the foundation for future growth. With the next slide, we'll look in a little more detail at the result of these cost-cutting activities. The cash position is strong at the end of Q3 at 12.7 million, and I note this balance is after having paid all of the transaction costs associated with the Opmentech acquisition. The balance was strengthened by having received 1.4 million in R&D grants just prior to the quarter end, as well as earlier in the quarter having completed the second tranche of the previously announced $7 million placement, the second tranche being 4.8 million before costs, that was conditional on the completion of the acquisition. The other side of the cash equation is cash burn, and I'm pleased to say we are making good progress towards our target of reducing the burn to below 500,000 per month by the end of the financial year. I've used the term normalized monthly cash burn. The reason I think normalized is important and draw your attention to the elements being considered in normalizing the cash movements is that the actual monthly cash movements include large swings such as prepayments of annual contracts, the R&D grant, as well as Opmentech having significant seasonality in their renewals and hence resultant cash collection profiles. The important elements of arriving at a normalized monthly cash burn are listed here on this slide. Normalized includes capitalized development costs and a monthly allocation for the R&D grant earned against these development activities. The revenue inflows are recognized revenue rather than billings. This normalized cash burn for the last month of the quarter was approximately 800,000. However, this includes 200,000 of salaries for employees who are currently working notice periods and are not planned to be replaced. And hence the underlying burn is 600,000 rather than 800,000. There are still a number of additional cost savings to be made, such as reducing the number of global platforms. Now, Cybercision has removed the duplication in the old CSMP and CCSP platforms, as well as reductions in business systems as the integration of First Wave and Opmentech is completed. With inflationary pressures and the main cost savings having been completed and a longer-term goal to reach cash flow break-even, sustained revenue growth now becomes the important next step. And I will hand back to Danny for more information on this.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Just before we do a wrap up and move on to the questions, I just want to give you a quick little sneak peek on Cybercision Mobile to get you all get your appetite for the upcoming Cybercision Phase 2 launch. So Cybercision Mobile, and you'll see a video playing there for you, is part of the Cybercision Phase 2 launch. It's white labeled for our partners. And as you can see through the video that's playing, it gives our clients visibility of their threats, live visibility. It gives our clients visibility of the historical protection as well. So it's our first mobile platform with Cybercision. It's supported on both iOS and Android, and it's a cybersecurity platform in the palm of their hand. This is really important for us because when you're providing email protection, it's really important that we're able to show the end clients the protection that they're being given, alert them live when there's a problem, and also show them the historical performance of the service to ensure the renewals. So that just gives you a little bit on Cybercision Mobile, and you have to tune in for the Cybercision Phase 2 launch to learn more about that and the frictionless email. With that, I'll just wrap up by saying that hopefully you can see that First Wave is already a transformed company following the acquisition of Opmentech. A lot of things are different compared to what they were in December. We're now able to make decisions that we couldn't previously make, and I feel very fortunate to be managing director at this time. There's cost savings that are being realized. There's new markets that are open and active, both horizontally and vertically, with new geographies and new products. our spending is now focused on growth and sales and marketing. And like all companies, our path to success won't be a straight line, but we are executing our plan well, and we're seeing good progress in Q3. Our core objective is to deliver returns to our shareholders, and we know that doing that means a extended period of delivering good results from the business. So that's my focus, and I look forward to delivering more good results to you over the next upcoming quarters. I might just invite John for some closing remarks before we take the questions.
Thanks, Danny. As Danny said before we move to Q&A, just a couple of things. You'll recall when I proposed the Opmantec transaction to shareholders on behalf of the company that I believed it to be transformational. Danny repeated that a moment ago. I hope we've been able to give you some sense of this in what we've been saying today. On the inside, I can assure you it is, and dramatically so. It won't be a straight line, as Danny said, but the direction is well established and the momentum is irreversible. Also, it's relevant to note that merging two businesses can be a very unsettling time, often complicated by egos and power struggles that can disrupt a business for months. And it doesn't matter what size of business it is, small, big, or indifferent, those sorts of things can play out. My observation is that there's absolutely none of that in this case. It is going to plan, and it's going very well. And the leadership and drive being shown by Danny, by Craig Nelson and the full executive team is very comforting for me to see. Thanks for listening. Let's now take your comments and questions, and I'll facilitate if you like. So please, I think we do have a couple of questions. We have, can I just ask the anonymous attendee, would you be so kind, please, as to let us know who you are? I'll just slip to Nick Harris's question as I can see it. Hi, team. Thanks for being very clear on ARR revenue and cash burn. Just to make sure I correctly understood the last comment Ian made, is monthly cash burn 0.6 million, excluding the costs of staff who will leave in Q4 FY22? Ian?
Yes, that's right, Nick. It will be progressive through Q4. Some people's notice period will run to the end of Q4. Other people will be very early in Q4. So you will see that 800, 600 just relating to this one item will fall through the quarter. Hope that gives you the extra information that you wanted.
Okay, thanks, Wayne, for letting us know it was you with the questions. Thank you very much. Let's just go back to Wayne's first question. Can you explain that 500K cash burn per month entering FY23, given your what's FCF forecast?
Free cash flow.
Free cash flow. Sorry, yeah, of course.
I think Wayne had a previous question that in you asking him who it was is moved to answered. So what was the ARR, gross profit and ARR when you exclude Opmantec, and how did each compare to the last quarter? We're obviously trying to remove, and there is need at some times, we're trying to remove the references to Opmantec and First Wave, and we are very much now thinking about this as products. So the company's completely aligned and we have products. So Cybercision, as you know, was withdrawn from the market and a launch coming up in May. So Cybercision was flat as we expected, and the movements that you've seen in ARR are all related to the NMIS product, the network management product that is the other focus that Danny was talking about, which is the product that we acquired from Opmantec.
And then maybe if you take the next question about Wayne's next question about free cash flow.
Yeah, quite happy to maybe discuss that in more detail offline, but I mean, I'm not sure where that number's coming from or what the concern is, and hence the reason for looking at normalized. I mean, our cash burn is coming down significantly, and perhaps it's to do with the cash flow statement that got released, and there are a number of one-off and large movements in that cash flow that don't relate to smoothing on a month-by-month basis. So we might have a large annual payment made in one quarter, and in fact the cash flow statement that's just been released shows us with even lower burn is about $600,000 a month, because some payments were made earlier in the year which are now not impacting the cash flow. So we really have to strip out those movements to get a good indication of where the business is sitting at on a profitability perspective.
Well, and if you're happy, Ian can talk to you directly offline about that to make sure that you're clear on that. And that question about, do your comments on future cash burn include the benefit of the major new contract under negotiation?
Yes, I mean, our future cash burn requires some more cost savings, but also requires revenue growth.
Now from Mike Fitley, welcome Mike. Can you please put some colour around the life cycle of the significant contract in the final stages of negotiation? Is it unique or should this be a normal expectation? Are you able to discuss this experience in the context of other irons that are in the fire? Danny, you might give that some colour.
Okay, no, it's not unique. It's normal in terms of our lumpiness, and it relates to our network management software. Those contracts are typically proactive decisions for customers to make. So sometimes they slip a little bit, but they tend to come through when they get to the procurement stages. So you know, until you get the order, you can never commit to it. I would say that, but it's a significant contract for us. But it's within the scope of the lumpy contracts we get with our network management software. There's nothing unique to it other than it's a good sized contract. The pipeline is pretty decent. We're not going to go through the whole pipeline on this call, but yeah, there's a lot of other irons in the fire, and we'll update the market as we get those orders.
I think if I can add there, Mike, what Danny said, we still live in a lumpy revenue environment. Big contracts with direct customers or big contracts with service providers that then develops slowly. So it's, as we've said before, it's always been difficult to sort of forecast that forecast around lumpiness. It has to be misleading whichever way it goes. So we don't do that, as you're well aware. And we're still in that environment at such time as we get, you know, revenues grow more significantly. Nick, good question. Hi, Danny. First wave email security being an opt-in for Office 365 users seems very significant. How do end users become aware of first wave's offering? For example, do you need to market to the end user to promote take up of your offering, or what may prompt them to opt in? Danny.
Yeah, sure. So part of the acquisition of Mantech was the acquisition of an establishment of within First Wave a digital marketing function headed by our Chief Marketing Officer. So digital marketing of these services is really important for us to ensure their growth and the uptake from the end users. It goes through our partner channels. So a lot of our partners already sell Microsoft 365 licenses. So the ability for us to tag along with that is something that's very exciting for us. We have to go through a normal account management and sales process to engage them and you know, ensure that they're offering this to their clients when they do the renewals. It does open some new channels as well. So and it does lend itself to the possibility of doing something directly in certain markets as well. But for right now, this is a service enhancement which goes out to our existing partners, which should enable them to sell it in a much easier way, i.e. with less friction, and sell a lot more of it.
Nick, if I can add there, just to put some reality around this to make sure all of our expectations are aligned. We've sort of finished the product dev in Q3, and as I said before, we'll launch in mid-May. It'll be externally then available to our service providers after we actually roll it onto the platform. So there's a timing thing that needs to play out in order to have revenue expectations. We'll elaborate a little bit more fully when we launch the product in mid-May, which we'd encourage all of you to come and have a listen. But the bottom line is that there's a process before you get revenue that you need to undertake, and we're in the middle of that process at the moment. Just a last question there. How are the products being received from North America, Danny? What's give people a feel for what's happening in the partner conversations over there? Yeah,
so part of what we've been doing this quarter is a lot of sessions in basically cross-training people from the two companies on the technologies. We've always maintained that we weren't going to see that Cybercision in particular, signing a new service provider up with the Cybercision platform is something that will take some time. We have commenced some conversations with cross-selling with existing partners, and those have been positive so far, but they're still early stage. I'd also note that our North American sales team is quite excited about the Frictionless product as well. There's obviously some big players in this email protection game, which have very large revenues like Proofpoint and Mimecast. And if we can just carve off a bit of those, then we'd be pretty happy as a company. But that's kind of more, so we've got that kind of blue sky side with some new technologies, which we're excited about. And then we've got the side which we know grows with our network management, and that's going well too. So we're pretty happy in North America.
Thanks, Danny. Kim Wingery, thank you, Kim, for your question. Can we get some idea of actual sales growth beyond the accounting changes that Ian outlined? Ian, do you want to talk to that?
Well, the sales metric that we focus on is annualized recurring revenue, and that's grown by 2.4%. So, I mean, is that, I'm not sure where the...
Yeah, I think just to help there, that's the bottom line answer to the question. The accounting changes that you're talking about were what added to one-off revenue, but they weren't actually accounting changes. They are revenue that's been earned, but they are flowing in a different form. If you remember, Kim, Ian outlined those being in two parts. The first was a 36-month contract that terminated within that 36-month period, prepaid, and we brought to account the remaining months of that. That was one component of it. So that's real revenue. It's added into, it's come as a one-off because it's come as a one number. It detracts a little bit, 10K a month, as Ian said, from the annualized recurring revenue, but that's the way that's how the change in one-off revenue occurred. And the second component of it was that we had a concern about a contract. We provided some revenue, provided against revenue for anything that went wrong with that contract. That's been resolved positively. So we brought to account the provision that we made. And that's real revenue as well. It would have been declared in previous periods, but it's actually been to account in this period because we now don't have a concern. So it is a bit complicated, but that's the explanation why we went into such detail to make sure that people could understand that. So Kim says, understood. Just wanted to get a feel for new transactions in the quarter. Danny,
I might just help lead the way, and Ian, you might have the actual precise numbers. But so our customers stay around 7 years. So you get some churn every quarter, and that's only natural. But 7 years is a long time for them to stay with a subscription business to start with. So there's some movement of revenues, as John just indicated, and the categorization of revenues, and then there's some churn, and then the net growth in ARR is the 2.4% after that churn. So what's the raw growth in ARR before the churn? Ian, do we actually have that number at hand?
650,000.
Yes, so more closer to 6.5%. Yeah, closer to 6%. There you go, in terms of sales.
Thanks, Kim. Any other questions from anyone? Delighted to have your questions. You've got the chat line or you've got the Q&A. Okie dokie. Thank you very much. All right, let's close this update. As I said right at the outset, as I was closing, I hope we've given you some sense for the level of activity inside the business and the sort of redirecting of the business. It's very significant. The two graphs that Danny had showing where our people are actually focusing now is the most significant way of explaining that to you. But the change is palpable. We are, this quarter, Danny's expressed the view that, I'm sorry, Danny, you can jump in here if you like, but it's expressed the view that, he feels really comfortable that this is sort of the start of a turn, because he can see the business down the pipe and he can see what's going on inside the business from a sales representation point of view. So, look, the next update is the Q4 update. We look forward to appraising you again of the business's performance. And of course, if there's anything substantial happens in that time, as soon as we know, you'll know. Thanks very much for listening and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.